Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dirt Nap City, and it's a special episode. This is a Dirt Nap City dead end. Alex, what's Dirt Nap City dead end?
I love those dead ends. The dead ends is about things that don't exist anymore that aren't people. So it's kind of similar to the Dirt Nap City brand, but we're not talking about folks. We're talking about things.
Talking about things. Well, today I have quite a thing to talk about. Now, this was something that kind of took hold in the 50s and had a pretty long tenure. A lot of our Dirt Nap City dead ends, were kind of flashes in the pan. This thing kind of went on through the 80s, I would say. And it was something that a lot of people, it had a huge popularity and penetration into the American household. It was the variety show.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the hula hoops.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things about a variety show is a variety show could have a professional hula hooper on it, or even a non-professional, like a really good hula hooper. Do you remember any variety shows?
Of course, I remember almost every variety show, and there was a million.
Oh, I have a long list.
Big thing.
I have a long list.
That was a big thing.
Well, so one of the things you have to do is kind of to start this thing, if you're not familiar with the variety shows, they were different than like a talk show or a sketch comedy show or a talent show. America's Got Talent. Some people might say that's a variety show, or even a telethon. You remember the telethons?
Sure.
Those kind of had a variety show vibe, but the big difference was a variety show usually had a single host or a couple, like Sonny and Cher. It was usually weekly, unlike a telethon, which was more of an annual thing. And then it had, a variety show, the name says it all, right? It could have juggling, could have acrobatics, could have, of course, music, comedy, dancing. What are some other things you might see on a variety show?
Yeah, there was usually like the music. It wasn't like a concert though. It would usually be a medley. So you'd get a singer from the time, and instead of them singing one song or two, like on Saturday Night Live, they would do like a medley of 8 of their famous songs.
True.
And they would do it sometimes with people that weren't singers that would come out and help them out.
A lot of times it was
usually
duets.
Yeah. And a lot of times it was a disaster.
Well, that's true. So there were also things like magic, ventriloquism, right? I mean, the nice thing about the word variety is it truly opens your door up to a variety of things, literally. But the thing also was that a lot of these variety shows were sponsored by a single company. So, you might have something like the Buick Circus Hour, right? Or the Ford Star Review, or here is a really good one, Coke Time with Eddie Fisher. You remember that? Eddie Fisher was really pumped up during those shows.
I guess he was.
Yeah, it was. It was sponsored by Coca-Cola, wow. which in fairness, back then probably still had cocaine in it because it did. it did for a while.
Coke Time with
Eddie Fisher. Yeah, that was a thing. It actually started as a radio program and then transitioned to television. That's how OG.
I'm more familiar with the ones from the 70s, the ones that at the later end of the.
Well, I kind of have a list here of some of the classics from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. American Bandstand, that was a music thing, but I think it had some variety on it. Andy Williams show.
American Bandstand didn't really have any comedy. Okay, though, but it had a variety of music. Sure,
there was one called Country Style.
Never heard of that one.
Dick Clark had a show, the Dick Clark Show. There was Dick Clark's World of Talent, and then of course Dinah Shore. Remember Dinah Shore?
Big time. Yeah, I remember Dinah Shore. That was more of a afternoon show, though. I think, wasn't it, or was that an evening?
I don't remember the timing of it, but she did have all kinds of different guests on. Ed Sullivan. He was a pretty famous. Now he became a little more of a talk show kind of thing, but I think in the beginning, I think the reason that variety shows were so popular. Do you have any theories on why they were popular during the 50s and 60s?
I mean, that was the beginning of television, right?
Yeah.
And so and the whole family could get around, and there's something for everybody.
That's
right?
exactly right. There's something for everybody, but also there weren't a lot of other options, right? And so the fact that you could cram comedy, ventriloquism, acrobatics, magic, singing, all of that into one show meant that everybody could get something. Whereas today, nobody even watches TV anymore, right? You're watching your phone or your computer, or your constant, or your Apple AR goggles. But so this,
Or listening to Dirt Nap City,
or listening
Dead
to Dirt
Ends.
Nap City, this gave you so many opportunities to watch things as a family and to get something for everyone, kind of like you said. Now, George Burns had a variety show. Henry Morgan had a variety show. Johnny Carson started kind of in a variety ilk, if you will. Nat King Cole, Lawrence Welk, Ken Murray. Also, who had a variety show. Now, this was actually really groundbreaking for its time. Hugh Hefner had a variety show.
Playboy After Dark, I think it was called.
Well, that was the
No,
reboot.
no, wait.
That was the
Wait,
reboot.
wait.
There was one
Wait,
way before that.
No, was it called Playboy's Penthouse or
Yes,
something like that?
Playboy's Penthouse. So that was actually shot in Chicago, and it was supposed to be like a party at Hugh Hefner's apartment. Like
Right.
they had playmates and guests, and basically Hugh Hefner would talk to the guests, and then they would do whatever they do. Shields and Yarnell with their whatever they do.
Yeah, I watched one of those recently because it had the band The Grassroots, where Creed Bratton was
right,
on.
right.
And it's from The Office.
Yeah.
And he's on that. And it's just real awkward, like you say. It's like a party, and Hugh Hefner comes over and he's like, "Hey, the Grassroots are over here. How's it going, guys?" And you can see Creed over there in the corner.
Does he talk at all in it? Creed?
Yeah, I think so. I think briefly, yeah.
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah.
I need to check that out. I'd be curious what I've never seen him outside of the show, so I'd be curious to see what his sort of demeanor is, because he has a very distinctive demeanor in the show. But
yeah, I know it's not like that.
Of course, Red Skelton. Remember Red Skelton? Heard the name?
Yeah.
And then there was also Red Buttons.
I think comedians did a better job of hosting these shows than musicians usually. Like I remember, you're probably going to come to Johnny Cash. Yep. Johnny Cash used to get the best guests, but he was a very stiff host.
Yeah.
That would stand there and just kind of read off the cue cards.
Yep.
Usually some of these comedians did a better job of moving the show along. People like Dean Martin.
Kind of funny you mentioned that, because there was now I was kind of talking mostly the 50s there, but during the 80s there actually was a little bit of a resurgence in variety shows. They were dropping in popularity, but there was a comedian, and his name was Jeff Altman. Do you know what show he was on?
Pink Lady and Jeff?
Yes. And did you know that
you're right in my wheelhouse, man?
I told you. Did you know that was voted like a top 50 worst television shows of all time?
By TV Guide, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's funny you say Pink Lady and Jeff, though, because the actual name of the show was Pink Lady, because the Pink Lady management wouldn't allow it to be called Pink Lady and Jeff. They threatened to sue if it was called Pink Lady and Jeff. One of the many problems with this show was the fact that the name was inconsistent. So in some ads in TV Guide, it would say Pink Lady and Jeff, but then the actual listing would say Pink Lady. So
Pink Lady was a Japanese duet of two women.
Yeah, Mai and Kai.
Didn't speak very good English.
Yes. So you've seen the show.
What a great idea for a show. Oh, I used to watch it religiously.
Well,
they didn't have very many episodes.
It was only like 5 episodes in 1980. And actually it was, you're exactly right. They didn't speak good English. And it was a pair of brothers who produced it. Pretty famous TV producers, where I'm forgetting their name here. Croft was their last name.
Sid and Marty Croft?
Yes, Sid and Marty Croft were the television producers. God, man, this is right up your wheelhouse. So apparently, when they greenlighted the show, Pink Lady, the two Japanese women, had a big hit on their hands, like in English. It was called "Kiss in the Dark," and it was sung in English. Well, they didn't speak English. They had done it phonetically, but it was a big hit in the US. And so the idea was that they would turn this into a show. Well, Sid and Marty Krofft, the producers and developers of the show, thought that these women spoke English. And I guess they were led to believe that. But when it turned out they didn't, it turned into a disaster because they couldn't really include them in very many of the sketches. They had to memorize any lines or songs that they did phonetically, right? So they're memorizing things phonetically. They had a problem with booking guests because of those shows, just poor quality. Now, some of the guests on Pink Lady, did you remember any of the guests?
No, not offhand.
Well, I remember I mentioned the Red Skelton earlier. Red Buttons was a thing. Bobby Vinton from Bobby Vinton's Rock and Roll.
Yeah, I wouldn't have chosen those.
Donny Osmond was a guest on it. Florence Henderson from the Brady Bunch was actually a guest.
I think they would have been better off kind of leaning into the weirdness of the whole thing.
Oh, of course.
It had more kind of alternative, hipper people.
Yeah.
Like Florence Henderson,
like David Byrne from the Talking Heads or something would have been
or Andy Kaufman or something. I mean, they really could. And I tanked Jeff Altman's career. Really, I mean, he was an up and coming comedian and he never recovered from that.
You didn't really lean into weirdness back then, though. It was kind of, or I guess this was the 80s. It was the early 80s. So one of their big gags. Do you remember the gag at the end of the show? There was a certain thing they would always do.
Did it have to do with a hot tub?
Yes, they would throw Jeff Altman into a hot tub. And I guess this had come from when the Brady Bunch had a variety show called the Brady Bunch Hour. Greg would throw Peter into the pool at the end of that show. And so they did it once and Jeff Altman thought it was funny. And then they kept doing it and it seemed very contrived. And Jeff Altman tried to get the writers to change it. He tried to get the producers, but he kept getting vetoed. And there's a theory as to why they got vetoed. You know what it was?
Because Pink Lady weren't they in bikinis?
Yes, that's exactly right. Anyway, it was a very clumsy show. From I think that was sort of the nail in the coffin for variety shows. We kind of talked about some from the 50s, but of course, some of the popular ones that were around in the 70s were like Sonny and Cher, Flip Wilson. There was one called the Razzle Dazzle Show. There was
I don't remember that. Now Hee Haw was very successful.
Yeah, Hee Haw.
And that's the show that you'd watch when you were with your grandparents.
Yes,
right?
Actually that is funny. My grandparents, my dad's parents did watch Hee Haw. Do you remember that song? Where, oh, where are you tonight? Why did you leave me here all alone?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
drinking song.
The world over and thought I found true love. You met another and you was gone.
Yeah.
that was the gag. Yeah, Hee Haw, Sha Na, kind of a variety show. The Muppet Show was actually kind of a variety show.
It was definitely a variety show. It was a well done variety show.
Yeah.
The last one I remember being popular was Barbara Mandrell's show.
That's right. Show? That's right. It had one season, and unfortunately, it kind of got caught up in the downslide of Pink Lady and 80s because she was around in the 80s. Barbara Mandrell had her show in the 80s.
It surprises me that it was only one season because I only think when I think of that name, I only think of that show. I don't know if she.
You don't know any other talent that she had.
Was she like? Did she? I mean, she was really, really famous, but couldn't say that. I think she was a singer, but I can't remember any songs that she'd had.
I don't know either. But I know that they rebooted like the Smothers Brothers during the 80s as well, and that actually went on for several years. They rebooted Carol Burnett's show and just called it I think they called it Carol and Company for a little while. And then Super Dave Osborne. Do you remember Super Dave Osborne? He had kind of a show for a little while. Well, the big remnant of all these variety shows today is Christmas specials. So they'll have these Christmas specials that are in essence, variety shows, but they have sort of a holiday, Christmassy kind of theme. I think Kid Rock has done one. Nick Lachey,
Really?
yep, has done one. Jessica Simpson, Lady Gaga, Michael Bublé, Bill Murray, Gwen Stefani. And then this past year, there was one with Hannah Waddingham, a Christmas variety show special.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. I did not, no. But she's the perfect example of somebody that used to have variety shows. Somebody that kind of, oh yeah, she's from The Thing, and we like her in Ted Lasso, and she sings, and yeah, but not really famous for, not like an Oscar-winning actress, and not like a Grammy Award singer, just kind of a five-tool person that's talented.
Yeah.
Or Wayne Brady would be another one, right?
Wayne Brady,
yep. Be like, missed his chance at the variety shows.
He would have been a big-time variety show host in the 60s, 70s.
Perfect, yeah.
Well, yeah, so like I said, they kind of went away because we got more choices. There's so many things you can do. They're so niche these days that we don't need that variety in one show. We can just kind of dive into, hey, I feel like comedy tonight. I'm just going to watch comedy. Now, Saturday Night Live, of course, is still going strong, 50-something years, right, at this point? How long is Saturday Night Live? And the thing is, the reason it's not considered a variety show, again, gets back to the fact that it's not the same host every week. It's an ensemble cast. And they don't have like talent things. They don't really have juggling or acrobats. They have things dancing. They have things just like more like music. And so it's got longevity, but it doesn't follow. It is more niche. It was kind of the perfect combination, because if you want to just laugh and hear some cool music, you watch Saturday Night Live. But it had enough variety back when it started that people enjoyed it, and it has enough nicheness today that people still enjoy it.
I think back then, demographics, like you mentioned, demographics didn't mean anything. Your goal was to appeal to as many people in the family as possible. Now we try to hit a certain demographic, and we try to have as niche as a show as possible to land. If we're trying to get a male that's 55 to 65 years old to buy a Buick, this is the kind of show we're going to offer them. And so there's no reason to have variety shows anymore. In fact, you'd be turning off people as much as you'd be turning them on. Right?
Yeah. It definitely, it feels dated. And so no more variety shows. They've definitely reached a dead end. I think it's a classic Dirt Nap City dead end. If you have a favorite variety show from any of those eras, email us, not at Dirt Nap City. And Alex, I got to go because I'm going to go watch Coke Time with Eddie Fisher. It's coming on in 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah, save me a Coke.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.